for coming to the Leaders Show. It is such an honor to have you here, and we would love to know more about you. You are an award-winning brand strategist and public affair. You are a world-class speaker. I've looked at many of your talks and the conversations that you've done with many people to activate compassion and kindness, and also to empower them, especially young women all over the world. But I would like to know more a little bit about you. Who is Desiree in your own words?
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. How do I describe who I am, or Desiree? That's my name, Desiree Peterkin Bell. She is a fierce warrior for justice. She is a protector. She's a mother. She's a wife. She's a sister. And she's a daughter. And she is a purposeful, determined woman on this planet, living in with a desire to make the world a better place for her daughter. She's also soft, and she also loves to laugh. And she's also learning to be vulnerable every single day. That's who Desiree is.
In 2012, you were named Pennsylvania's Senior Advisor for Communications for the Chicago-based Obama for the Chicago-based Obama for the American campaign. You managed the statewide communications staff and advised the campaign on the communications strategies, keeping voters informed about the president's records and what it means to Pennsylvania. Can you talk more about this experience? If you can share a little bit more.
I've had an amazing career. I had a great opportunity to work with some amazing folks, and one of which was former President Barack Obama, helping to lead Pennsylvania for his re-election bid. And also prior to that, helping as a field organizer for his first run as president. And that experience helped to make me hopeful about change and about the right people being in the right place at the right time.
How was it to meet the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama? How important was this to you?
It was very important to me as a Black woman to have the opportunity in my lifetime to see the countries, the United States of America, to see my country's opportunity to have its first Black president, and to be able to work hard to make that a possibility, and for my daughter to see that as well. So from a representation standpoint, it was amazing. From a policy standpoint, it was invigorating. It was fresh, and it was impactful. I also made lifelong friends along the way of people who are also committed to purpose and impact.
Even though we are in the 21st century, there is still a lot of stigma about mental health concerns. People typically don't talk about how they are feeling, and people try to repress their thoughts and emotions. And of course, this leads to inefficient and destructive means of coping, such as drinking alcohol, taking drugs, emotional eating, and many other things. According to you, what steps may be taken to increase the mental health awareness, and what can we do about it? How important is this?
Mental health is extremely important. I have had my own mental health journeys, and what I have learned is there is power and vulnerability in sharing. As a Black woman in the United States of America, there are certain stereotypes and microaggressions that we are unfortunately more apt to experience than our counterparts, simply because we are Black women. And I think there is something to be said about how that impacts our mental health, how we show up in the world, how we are allowed to be vulnerable and when, and to challenge this unfortunate, stereotypical, discriminatory trope of the strong Black woman, um, that basically says, as a strong Black woman, we cannot be vulnerable, we cannot be soft, we cannot hurt, we cannot feel, and that we almost always must be this stereotype. I think that impacts the mental health of Black women disproportionately, unfortunately. And that is something that I try desperately hard to address in the Black community here in the United States by giving place and space to Black women to speak their truth, to power, to be vulnerable, to connect, and to build with one another.
The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who has a try to live can bear almost anyhow." According to you, how important is having purpose in life, and how can people who are facing significant struggles in life can find purpose?
Purpose in life, oh, it's extremely important. And how can people who are facing significant struggles in life find purpose? Listen, I always say, I drink deeply from wells I did not dig. And what that means is there are people who've had a stronger, more longer, sometimes unfortunate journey than myself. You know, my ancestors were brought to this country in chains as slaves um, through the Middle Passage. And then the other part of my ancestors were moved off their land here in the United States as Cherokee Indians. And so that is what's in my veins. That is why I do the work that I do, that is purposeful work, global impact work, because I have people in my past who have paved the way for me so that I get to stand up and do the work that I love to do. And everyone has a purpose in life to be able to be impactful.
How important is compassion in the world, and what can we do as a community to activate it?
I do believe that we are all interconnected and that it is important to understand that if one of our uh, people next to us is hurting, ultimately that's going to impact us too. So we cannot live in these bubbles or these silos that allow us to fracture and only focus on our little communities, our little neighborhoods, our little coffee tables. But we really have to take a broader approach, because that's only when will we grow. I do believe in being uncomfortable. I do believe that you grow when you're uncomfortable, you learn when you're uncomfortable, and you get to be a better person when you're uncomfortable, because you're allowing yourself to be put in a situation where you are to be to grow and learn things that you may not have known. And I do believe that we cannot grow if we're stagnant. That's not how growth works.
Could you provide some additional insights into some of the subjects that are discussed in your best-selling book, Women Who Influence? And what is the key message you are trying to pass on to the readers?
So a few years ago, I was a contributor to a book called Women Who Influence, and it became an Amazon bestseller. Some of the most essential things I think the readers should take away from that are this conversation of having uncomfortable conversations. One of the things that I talk about, and I started an initiative in 2016 called Purpose Not Position, Chat and Choose, where I sit down with women from all over the world. And we've been to India and Tel Aviv, Bermuda, we've been to Panama. We have gone to 15 states throughout the United States, really just sitting down, breaking bread, and having some really heart-to-heart conversations with women who may seem like they are very different from the outside. But we find after breaking bread And after spending significant time together, we have a lot more in common than we have differences. Now, that doesn't mean everyone walks away becoming friends, but what that does mean is that people walk away understanding a world much greater than themselves. And so I wrote about this in my portion of Women Who Influence, and what I found out in my journeys and the power of people's stories and the respect that we can garner and get from hearing other people's experiences and stories to build a better world.
Can you tell me a leadership quote that has had a big influence in your life, in your professional career, but also in you, Desiree, as a woman?
One leadership quote that I love, love, love is Shirley Chisholm. And she says, if they don't invite you in the room, if they don't invite you to the table, grab a folding chair. And essentially what that means is don't wait for your invite to happen, right? I really wish this was a world that was a utopic world, and we all know it's not. And because of that, sometimes you really have to find your place at the table yourself. And you may have to elbow yourself in, right? And get your folding chair. And then in some cases, you may actually just have to bust that door down and get in the room. Because if you are not at the table, then you are on the menu.
Thank you so much, Desiree. It was lovely having you here at the Leader Show.